All right, everyone, we start off today talking about the stages of grief, specifically the one that the GOP appears now to finally be entering. So right now they're in the bargaining stage of grief. I can't remember which one bargaining is. Is it the third or fourth stage or something? No, it's not the first one. The first one is anger, if I remember correctly. Anger and abysmal sadness. And the GOP has definitely gone through those already. Donald Trump is now effectively, inevitably, the Republican nominee. There's not enough wiggle room. I don't think that there's enough oxygen in the room for any other single candidate. Like this article, link in the description, it's not the first one that I've seen to this effect, and it really is shades of 2016, not of 2020, by the way. I'll explain that in a moment. Effectively posits a mythical scenario in which the rest of the GOP minus one candidate, presumptively DeSantis, because he's the only one who's ever been in the double digits in the aggregate, everyone else drops out, everyone endorses DeSantis, and then it becomes possible. The party must unify behind a challenger to Donald. The scenario is mythological, and it smacks of what happened after Super Tuesday in the 2016 election. You probably remember that. You had three viable contenders against Trump, all of which were in the double-digit range. You had Ted Cruz, you had Marco Rubio, and you had John Kasich. Now, Kasich hovered a little bit on the lower end of that. Between the three of them, though, they did enjoy a decent amount of support. In fact, the margin would not be dissimilar to Trump's current lead, actually, in the current election. It'd be roughly similar. I think Trump is riding a little bit higher than he was in 2016, and of course the voting hasn't begun yet. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Anything can and does happen, of course. It's the GOP Uniparty we're talking about. They're not done with their dirty tricks, and neither is the legal system right now. The problem for both of them is that none of those tricks seem to be working on the public anymore, at least the GOP lay public, which is what you need in a primary. It's not the general election. We're talking about a primary in which the vast plurality of people that vote, and in some states have to be literally registered, are going to be Republicans. In some states that won't be the case, but the Democrats have it in mind that Trump is more beatable, actually, and so if anyone crosses the line to take a GOP ballot, like as not, they're voting for Trump too, which would be funny. He might actually exceed his polling average in a number of states because of people crossing the aisle saying, well, Biden is inevitable due to incumbency, I might as well screw with the GOP. Well, I actually agree with this because you're screwing the Dems and the GOP Uniparty in the process. I think Trump is actually fully electable. The thing is, it's a mythological scenario. At least a couple of those candidates, having dropped out, would refuse to endorse anyone because they know that Trump's inevitable. They don't like him, so they don't want to be seen supporting him, but they don't see anyone else as viable. They would just withhold. A couple of others I strongly suspect would endorse Donald Trump. Larry Elder, I suspect if he drops out, Trump would be the one he endorses, etc. So that scenario is mythological. Much like with the 2016 election as well. The people that remain in the race, I'll tell you who I think remains in through voting. DeSantis remains in, although he could, in theory, run out of money. At the rate that he has declined, having slashed a third of his staff, really winnowed things down, he's more and more reliant upon PAC funding. Because, in Iowa, they're going on a $25 million ad buy as we speak, there and in New Hampshire as well. Basically, that's his last shot. If he performs poorly in those two states, if he doesn't win one of them, or at least come in an unexpectedly strong second, I suspect that he will drop out before Super Tuesday, because then he has plausible deniability about why he lost his home state of Florida. Haley may stay in. She's getting a bounce post-GOP debate. I will speculate separately today that she's the Kamala Harris of the cycle, though. It's a fluke. She rises up because all of a sudden, because of an unexpectedly good debate performance, people start looking into her. All it does is vampirize soft support from other also-ran candidates. We saw this with Kamala Harris when she was running, of course, before she got gobbled up as running mate. Lord save us if Donald Trump were nuts enough to have Nikki Haley as running mate. Christie will remain in because he has enough funding and a streamlined enough campaign, it's the streamlined thing about him, you'll note, to stay in. And because basically he's just the I hate Trump candidate, which is really, really funny. Mike Pence may or may not be able to stay in. Again, he's got more of a top-heavy style of campaign. He hasn't really materialized as anything other than a tertiary candidate. And then Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy appears to have stabilized and did not suffer a post-spike reduction of any significance in his polling. These people all have their own reasons for being in the race. At this point, I don't think any of them other than DeSantis is delusional enough to think that they have a chance. But they're not in it to win it. They're in it for a cabinet position. They're in it so that they can sell their endorsement, potentially, when they inevitably do in the end drop out. I think that the race is already close to fundamentally over. This is the bargaining stage of grief that we see from the Uniparty. They're begging the other candidates to end their political careers in a suicide attack on Trump that probably wouldn't work anyway. Because even if DeSantis or Ramaswamy or whoever got the endorsement of literally every other candidate, Trump would still be well above 50 points at this time. In some of the polling, he's already approaching 60% now. The gap has widened, especially with the reduction of DeSantis support. Donald Trump was at his lull in the mid-40s many, many moons ago. He's gained 10 points of aggregated support since then, and it appears to be hardening support because of the indictments. The writing is basically on the wall. The scenario in which everyone else drops but one and then magically slays the dragon of Trump is just, it's monumentally unlikely. Again, Trump could have a health crisis. Somebody could kill him, which I'm sure the Uniparty is at least thinking about it because they're terrified of the man. He could die. He could be incapacitated. He could be legally prevented from running in a number of states. They're already trying that because, again, they don't think they can win against him. I don't think their efforts legally will succeed, but they're trying. All of those scenarios are at least possible. Barring one of those scenarios, Donald Trump gets nominated. He wins in a clean sweep. He destroys several people's political careers in the process. And at the end of the day, only the most severe TDS sufferers won't come to the table and say, okay, begrudgingly, I'm going to support Trump. That includes some of the other candidates. Chris Christie has sworn to the GOP. He's signed the paper saying that he would support the nominee, and he knows it won't be him. In the end, though, he has also contravened himself and said that he won't back Trump if he happens to be the candidate, which is like, why did you let him on the debate stage if he's coming out in public? You keep Larry Elder off despite the fact that he hit the polling threshold at the 11th hour, but then Christie gets up on stage when he's openly swearing that he's going to violate your loyalty oath bullshit. That's very, very interesting. Again, more TDS because he pointed out that Trump was the one he wouldn't support. Yeah, I'll support any GOP candidate except Big Don. Not Orange Man. No, Orange Man bad. He wouldn't give me a cabinet position. He only made me an advisor and a debate coach, which, you can do worse with Christie as your debate coach, just to be clear. It's the one good thing about him politically. The Uniparty will not succeed, in my opinion, at stopping Trump. They're going to pull out all the stops in the general election, therefore, and through the legal system because they really have no other choice. Their biggest problem, the biggest risk for the Uniparty is that it backfires. It gains Trump more public support because people say, look, it's impossible to be persecuted by literally every rung of power and not have some positive qualities about you. Maybe Orange Man not totally bad after all. They're going to see it as legal persecution. And even though a majority of Americans think Trump broke the law, a majority of them don't want him to go to jail. There's a huge number of middle, centrist voters that are like, well, yeah, he broke the law, but you're breaking civic precedent and you're making it real obvious. Well, the two's aside. Of course, I'm Team Trump myself. I will be voting for him. Don't care if I have to write him in, by the way. That's about all. Peace out.